how much of this Las Vegas shooting have you been able to see?
I've not watched a lot of video from it. I can't watch graphic shit like that. It'll fuck with me. It'll keep me awake at night and all that.
Well, besides the video that I texted you this morning, the main video that they're airing on the news isn't graphic.
I've seen that where basically Jason Aldean's still performing and the gunfire starts out. Yeah, that I've seen.
How crazy is this whole thing? I mean, how much have you looked into it?
I mean, I've looked into it a little bit. I mean, I know the official story, and I know that the conspiracy theorists are all over it already. I mean, they didn't even wait for the bodies to get cold. But
what are you hearing with the conspiracy?
Man, I've heard everything. I've heard everything from dude. I even heard one where the NFL is doing this because they want to take attention off the protests.
What?
Yeah, I saw that one the other day. I've seen that this is Donald Trump doing this because he wants to impose tighter security regulations on the United States and start a police state. I've seen that this is the liberals doing it because they want to take all of our guns away.
Wow.
The most likely reality is that this is, a madman that, like, everyone's like, how do you get 40, how do you get, 10 rifles up there? Okay, how do you get 10 rifles up there? Probably one at a time in suitcases because those type of rifles can be disassembled.
Well, he had more than 10 rifles up there.
He'd also been there for like a week. So, I mean, he could have been bringing that stuff in a little bit at a time. And
well, let's get our facts straight. He got the suite at Mandalay Bay on the 28th, I believe. I'm trying to find it, but I'm pretty sure that's right. In his Mandalay Bay hotel suite, which he got on the 28th, he had a total of 23 weapons inside his room. And apparently, now this is from a CNN article as of this recording released 8 minutes ago. He also had 50 pounds of explosive material and 1,600 rounds of ammunition in his car in the hotel parking lot. So the fact that he was able to get that many in the hotel, that's kind of crazy.
I mean, you would think, but I mean, there are ways to do it. I mean, people bring in big, heavy suitcases and go out with them all the time. I mean, and nobody bats an eye.
At Mandalay Bay, there's the shuttle drop-off area, like if you're staying at another hotel or wherever, and they drop you off at this entrance. And it's kind of on the side or maybe the back of Mandalay Bay, but the doors are completely open. They're not locked in any way. There's no metal detectors or scanners or anything, at least that you can tell. And there was no employees down there. But besides cameras, which it's Vegas, you never know where a camera is, that entrance is completely open for anyone to just walk in. And yeah, people are coming and going constantly. So someone comes in with so many bags or whatever, no one really questions it.
Yeah, how many people walk in with something like as large as a golf bag? And you could fit a rifle in a golf bag. People walk in with pretty, heavy stuff all the time. I mean, if you, even like a bag of, like camera equipment that could hold like a bipod could hold a weapon. Right. So, I mean, there are many like nondescript things he could carry a weapon or more than one weapon in. And if he makes multiple trips, no one's going to notice. There's too many people milling around doing things. He could walk right through there.
Way too many people.
He could just walk right through there, and he's just another guy walking with a random bag of shit that you don't care about.
Right. But as far as the conspiracy theories, I mean, the conspiracy theories start almost instantly with any mass shooting. But this one in particular, when it happened, I found out about it just like a lot of people did on Monday morning. And just looking through it, and even though a lot of the information wasn't out yet, but even then, I was just like, something's not right about this. It felt weird. And, since it's been a few days since it happened, at first I thought it was like something's fishy here. Why it's too random, I guess. If I had to ball it up into a short phrase, it's too random. But that's exactly why it feels so weird, is he doesn't fit any demographic. He doesn't fit any profile as far as who usually conducts mass shootings. You know, he's in his 60s, and he was wealthy. He was successful. So no apparent mental illness, no police record or anything like that. So it was just, why would he, of all people, would do this?
I saw one thing, and I was at work, so I didn't really have time to actually read the thing. But it was someone actually said that he was prescribed, or that they're now finding that he was prescribed like an antipsychotic just like 3 or 4 months ago.
Okay, I didn't hear
and
that.
I don't know if it's true or not. That's the thing. I didn't have time to dig into it, and then by the time I can't find it again. So there is that. But either way, I mean, I think that's why everybody's reaching so hard for a conspiracy here, is that nobody understands it. But, you know, just because we don't understand something doesn't mean we can just plug in an answer that makes this shit make sense to us, because I find that, you know, it's not even been a week. I mean, bodies haven't even been released to their family to be buried yet. There are people, like, really hurting. I don't think it's, like, all right to be tossing around right now while people are still, you know, grieving, and there are people in the hospital still in critical condition now, clinging to life, while to be sitting here, you know, farting out conspiracy theories about how it could be this, it could be this, it could be this. But we do have the facts that we do know right now, and the facts we do know right now, yes, they raise some questions, but, you know, that's the nature of an investigation. It's only been a few days. It's sudden for the police too. He appears to have had no help, but if he did have help, they don't know where to look for it.
I guess that's sort of the interesting thing about situations like this, is that at least most everybody wants to know why. Maybe it's just a random event. You know, this guy didn't pose any red flags, even though he bought 33. He bought 33 guns over the span.
Which is interesting, because that volume of gun purchases is supposed to flag the system. I don't know what they do with it after they flag that system, but that volume of gun purchases should raise some eyebrows.
You would think. I mean, but what about these gun festivals where you can go there, you don't have to pass any sort of background check, you can pay cash, so there's no paper trail, you know.
Bill Clinton closed that loophole in the 90s, man.
You can go to a flea market and buy a gun. Not an assault rifle, but you can buy a lethal weapon from a flea market with no paperwork, just cash.
That's not supposed to be legal. Because when I was a kid, like my first gun was not my first, but my first it was purchased. Whenever went and bought one, it was bought from a gun store, and it was just a rifle, just a .22 rifle, and we had to wait a good 45 minutes while a background check cleared before we could leave with a .22 bolt action rifle that held 5 rounds.
Right. Obviously, it's super sad and it's super tragic, and it's shocking, especially because of the fact that he doesn't fit the normal profile of someone who would do this. But trying to put conspiracy theories, trying to figure out why someone did something, I think at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. All those people still died. All those people still got injured. And like you said, there's still people in critical condition right now. And we just have to surrender to the fact that anyone can do this. It doesn't take a special type of person. I mean, it does. It definitely does take a special type of person to do it, but you can't really give that person a description the way that a criminal profiler would. Like, he's between this age and this age. He's of this race, this religion, this political view. Given the right circumstances, anyone can do it.
Yeah, and I saw a thing where, ISIS tried to, claim responsibility, but now they're, pretty sure they just wanted to claim responsibility even though they had nothing to do with it.
They've done that
And
several
I was
times.
going to say, that's part of their MO. When some shit goes down and they can try to take credit,
We did it.
there's like, yep, that was us. That was totally us. And meanwhile, they're over there just they know less about it than anybody.
Right. But some of the now before I say this, I'm not subscribing to any of the conspiracy theories at all. But this person could very well have just been lying or mistaken, because I mean the cliche goes, the worst evidence you can have is eyewitness evidence. But this was a CNN interview of this guy and this girl. And the girl was telling the reporter that they were trying to, the word she used, herd the crowd to the parking lot. And she said that there was men in the parking lot killing people there. So not only was there another shooter, but there were multiple other shooters, and they were basically gathering them into a different location and shooting them there.
So far, she's the only person who said that. That's the thing. That's the only interview. That's the only interview or anything I've seen, because I have seen that interview too. That has said that, and I immediately went looking for other people who were saying that happened, and I've not seen it. And what that tells me is that this person was probably in shock. It's not. I mean, To put in perspective how horrifying it is to be underneath automatic gunfire, fully automatic gunfire, we have soldiers who are trained for war and for battle who go over there in the explosions and the automatic gunfire, and seeing people shot right next to them like this person had just gone through leads them to need years of extensive treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder. The shock and all of that type of situation. And that's a trained warrior. That's someone trained for battle.
I think that's an important point you're bringing up there, because all these interviews with people who were there when it happened, especially the people who were like in the crowd, like trying to escape with everyone else, I think those are the worst people you could interview.
I mean, those people are in shock. They are in shock. They need, those people are going to probably need counseling to move forward from being in a situation like this. And I think, they say, the UFC doesn't even want to interview fighters after they've been knocked out right now. Well, do you really want to interview somebody right after they've been through such a horrific experience? Because is everything working right now? Were there actually shooters in the parking lot, or were there just still bullets ricocheting around and she's in a panic?
Yes, that's very important detail. Is someone could have had a cell phone and she thought it was a gun, and the bullets are ricocheting and echoing off the buildings, and you have no idea what's going on or where it's coming from. You just trying to get away.
Could have even seen a police officer with their gun drawn. There was, I've forgotten which country music star it was, but one of them actually gave an off-duty police officer his own weapon, and he had it in case he could get a shot at the shooter. Could have seen somebody with a gun who was actually trying to be helpful, but because there's still bullets flying around and you're running and you're moving, you don't really know where the bullets are coming from. At the time, nobody knew where the bullets were coming from. So
they kind of knew a general direction. If you watched the video, the one that you were talking about where the singer was still on stage, when it first started happening, everyone looked to their right, like towards Mandalay and the Luxor. I think the Luxor was more behind them, but they looked in that general direction, so they kind of knew in general where it was coming.
Well, yeah, they could hear the sound of the muzzle blast, so they got like a rough idea. But And the other thing I've seen that I kind of want to put to bed is that range would have made that rifle ineffective, or that range would have been too far for a single shooter to be effective at with a fully automatic weapon. Bullshit. That rifle.
It was a 308.
I believe. Well, yeah, one of the ones he's firing. Yeah, because I think he moved through some of the different weapons, which, by the way, he'd modified to make fully automatic. which is illegal. The moment you do that, the weapon is becoming illegal. There are special permits you can apply for to have a fully automatic weapon in this country, but a normal person can't even get there. No way.
Yeah, but I've never done this, and I don't know what's involved in this, but I have heard that it's actually easy to make a rifle into an automatic weapon.
I've heard it's easy too, but I've also heard it's extremely dangerous.
Maybe. The mechanism could, I guess, I don't know. I don't know anything about that, so I couldn't really comment beyond that. But have you, to interview someone who was in the crowd, and you're not going to get any reliable information.
Especially not right then and right there. They're in shock. I mean, that's a very important thing to look. I mean, anybody who's ever been in even like a significant automobile accident knows that one of the things an EMT has to treat a patient for in that situation frequently is shock. Well, these people went from, and you've been to a concert, an extreme emotional high, being connected with the people on the stage, excited to be there. And this is the end of the festival too, so like there's like this whole, awesome atmosphere. It's all coming to a close, and then all of a sudden horror just breaks out. So from that extreme emotional high to an absolute panic state where you have to be afraid for your life, afraid for the lives of the people that you came with you, and you've got to run for your life. You're in an open field. You're a sitting duck. Someone's firing a fully automatic weapon. You've got no frame of reference for this whatsoever.
A part of you
in your entire life
a part of you can't even process in the moment what's actually happening.
Yeah, aside from probably the few, or I don't know how few there were, but aside from military veterans in attendance to that concert, and that's actually one of the victims that I've seen that actually died. He survived a tour in Iraq, only to get gunned down at a country music festival. Totally fucked up.
Right, but to even be aware of what's going on or where it's coming from exactly, let alone details, as in how many shooters there were, and what someone you thought was holding a gun, what they were actually holding. You can't. You just can't.
I mean, the one thing I was going to touch on earlier, that's because this has been a cornerstone of several of the conspiracy theories. This guy with that weapon, he had a optics on it too, and that shot was and shooting at that range is a little over 300 yards.
I think they said it was like a quarter mile.
A little over 300 yards, about a little less than a quarter mile. But that shot with optics and fully automatic weapon. But by the way, he's not trying to hit individual people. He's firing a fully automatic weapon into a gigantic crowd. It's not like it's a tiny target.
Thousands of
exactly. And this man is firing at a range with optics that's shorter than the range that U.S. Marines qualify at with iron sights. U.S. Marines have qualifying shots that they make at 500 yards with iron sights. So it's not unfeasible. It's not out of that weapon's range. Then that needs to be put to bed, because that's a cornerstone of some of these, is that it would be impossible to do it from where he was. Not at all. Not at all. People who say that don't know shit about firearms.
I'm pretty sure it was the 308 they were talking about, which a 308, I believe, has a max range of about 1,000 yards, maybe a little less. So yeah, definitely what you're saying is that it was too far away to be lethal is not true whatsoever.
No, it's it's one of those things that, like, when I hear somebody saying that, I'm thinking, you've never shot a gun before. You have no idea the kind of power that's in a high-powered rifle round.
Yeah, but I do think the scariest part about this is realizing, like I said earlier, anyone can do this. Just because you see someone that you might, in your head, stereotype, even subconsciously, you have a certain idea about someone based on their looks. This guy was in his mid-60s. He was wealthy. He was successful. And he still committed this horrible act. So the argument, I don't know if there is an argument, but I'm not even going to get into the argument. The point is, I don't know exactly how to do this, but there has to be stricter gun laws. There has to be a registry if you own a gun, especially the types of guns or the number of guns you have. But
any that get a background check are automatically registered.
Yes, but like, I wish I had all the details with that, because I don't think so. Because he managed to get 33 guns within a year with raising no red flags.
Can we be honest? If somebody who had an Arab sounding last name did that, they'd be on the watch list.
Oh, for sure.
And that's the thing. Like, there are some prejudices that, I'm definitely aware of now, because whenever I first, I didn't see it on the news. I woke up the next morning and, I did what I normally do. Before I even get out of bed, I open Facebook and just, start scrolling a little bit while I wake up.
As I'm sure a lot of us do.
And the first thing I saw was, people talking about Las Vegas tragedy and, over 50 people dead and, 200 wounded. And I'm like, great, here we go. Here's another fucking Islamic terror attack. That's the first thing that ran through my brain. I'm being completely honest here. That's what I thought. And that's probably what every damn body thought before they knew anything about it.
And you read mass shooting?
Yeah, I read mass shooting.
Okay, you do realize that most mass shootings actually are carried out by white men, right? Not Arabs.
Yeah, but the size and scope of this thing, I thought it would be like a coordinated terror attack. From the numbers I was reading and where it was, I thought it would be some sort of coordinated terror attack, not a psycho in a hotel room.
Gotcha.
So I didn't think one guy was. I didn't think it was going to be just like one guy that pulled that off. I thought it was going to be something similar to the London stabbings, where it was actually an organized radical group that was acting together to get multiple people. I thought it would be something like that.
Mm-hmm. Did you see the video with his brother? The interview.
I've seen part of it. I was actually in the kitchen making lunch when that was on the TV the day that I saw the interview aired. You probably know more about this than me. Apparently people with his body language are thinking that he's lying, that he actually isn't as shocked as he said.
Well, I've watched it a couple times, because the first time I watched it, my automatic response, his body language and him stuttering was like, oh, he's clearly full of shit. He doesn't, he's lying about something. But I really think it's, again, the shock of realizing your brother did this and that your brother's dead and he was the cause of all of these people's death as well. So it might have been he was just in shock himself. But the more interesting thing about that, body language aside, and whether he was lying or not aside, he said that his brother wasn't even a gun guy. That he might have had 1-2 handguns or something like that, but he's not really a gun guy. Meanwhile, just within a year, he got 33 weapons, apparently 50 pounds of explosives, and they said somewhere. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Just give me your thoughts on that while I find this.
I mean, it's possible that if he wasn't a gun guy, but he was planning something like this, that, he wouldn't be sharing that with, his family members over there. If I recall, his brother also said that it had been a couple months since he'd had any contact with him, right?
I think so, yeah. Oh, here it is. In his Reno home, they found 5 handguns, 2 shotguns, and a, quote, plethora of ammunition. And in his Mesquite home, which I believe that's the assisted living home that he was in, I think, he had 19 more firearms. That's all not including what he had in the hotel room with him. So to say that he's not a gun guy, that's okay. What qualifies as a gun guy to you then?
Well, I mean, here's the thing that I thought out of that interview. I thought that his brother didn't really know him as well in these recent years as he thinks he does, because, I mean, I don't know about this, but I've got people that, I don't have any brothers or sisters, but people that I'm close to, I speak to them at least once a week. Mm-hmm. Even if I have to go out of my way to talk about nothing, I'll find a way to speak to them within a week. So, I mean, this guy hadn't spoke to his brother in 2 months. And that that raises some eyebrows to me. I mean, my dad's got brothers and sisters, and they talk 2, 3, 4 times a week, keep up with each other, and what they're doing. Even if it's just a text message or two, just to, make sure everybody's still alive and breathing and doing all right. So to me, it seemed a little off that someone would go such an extended amount of time without speaking to such a close relative as a brother. So I wonder if, he really knew what was going on in his brother's life, and that could have been some of the shock of this. He could have been he could have had no idea what was going on in this man's life, in his mind, and, the what, the why, all of that. That's what I picked up from it. It's just what I thought from it, and I guess that's me putting some of my own judgments on the situation. But I just wonder, if you're going that extended period of time before you talk to your brother, how much do you really know about him?
Right. I mean, 2 months is quite a long time. A lot can happen in 2 months.
And they didn't spend, and they didn't live in the same area either. So, I mean, he probably didn't have a lot of opportunities to, see that he was stockpiling weapons at any point. I forget where his brother lived, but I'm guessing his brother was living closer to their mother.
And where was that?
In Florida.
Oh wow! So
which means it might have been as recent as the first hurricane that came through. So maybe it was a month, but
well,
either way, spinning off topic there, but it's mind blowing to me that you wouldn't even check in on your family in such an extended period of time. So maybe he really just didn't know.
That's definitely possible as well. They probably just found he had a brother and say, "Oh, we have to interview him," right? Because they couldn't find his girlfriend. He sent his girlfriend to the Philippines days before he did this.
Which that's really confusing, isn't it? I mean, or really telling, I guess I should say. He sent his girlfriend out of the country.
Oh yeah, he obviously had planned this for at least a year. Right? Because he bought all those guns since last October.
Yeah, and I mean, people bring his age is a reason he couldn't carry that shit up a hotel. If he's got that shit in bags and stuff, they have trolleys that you are allowed to use yourself in the hotel. You don't have to literally physically lug it all up the stairs yourself.
Yeah. I mean, his age is the only thing about his age that's interesting is that the typical demographic of the mass shooters that have happened in the past have been between the ages, well, I don't know the exact ages, but the criminal profiler that they were interviewing said it's usually teenage to late 20s is the typical age range that mass shootings happen. But like I said, I think that's the most shocking and scary, quite frankly, thing about this whole thing is that it seems so random.
Yeah, that is one of the things I thought about. Is what happens in someone's life to push them to that point, where the sensible solution, and then kills himself too. So I mean, we could have saved the world a lot of trouble and just started there.
Which was really weird because wasn't the original report that the SWAT team breached his room and put him down themselves?
I honestly don't know because I didn't see any stories until around 11:30, 12 o'clock the second day.
Oh, okay.
Or the day after. So, and having not seen any till the next morning, I was seeing that he killed himself.
Right. The official report now is that he killed himself. It was just weird that that's what the police department reported early on. It could have been just miscommunication. I don't know. It
could have just been that they breached the room and he's dead. So the thought was maybe they thought that the SWAT team killed him.
Right. Yeah. Well,
so I mean, more details will come out if there was. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility that he had some kind of help. It's just that right now it looks like, with all the evidence we have right now, that he didn't. I think as we try to search to find conspiracy theories, I think it actually keeps us from processing the reality of this situation. And that is that. And I'll preface this a little bit with being I am a gun lover, but something needs to be done to where but that's the thing. If you had to clear, unless the antipsychotic thing that I saw was true, and I've been unable to find it again, so that might mean that it was bullshit.
Him taking medication?
Mm-hmm. So unless that's true, and like I said, it might be bullshit since I can't find other reports to substantiate it. This guy probably could have passed just about any test that you gave him. I mean, as far as we know, he wasn't suffering from major mental issues as far as we know right now. So that means he probably could have passed a psych eval or any background check he gave. He had no priors, so that wouldn't necessarily stop this. And I'm not for a disarmament of American citizens. I don't think that's a smart move. I honestly think an attempt at it would trigger another civil war.
I'm almost positive that it would, at least in certain parts of the country. But as far as like the no priors thing, like he didn't have a criminal record. I believe I'm correct in that. Mm-hmm. He definitely didn't have a criminal record in Vegas. But they keep talking about his dad, who was a notorious bank robber who was on the FBI's most wanted list. Okay. There's a huge jump from robbing a bank to killing almost 60 people. The fact that they keep pushing that is like, well, his dad was on FBI's most wanted. It's because it's a sexy story. He's like, ooh, the son of the notorious bank robber is, you know, who knows what happened in this guy's life? Who knows what his psychology was? The point of the matter is that it happened, and we should try to learn from it, and we should try to just give our thoughts to everyone and their families that lost their lives in this event. But anyway, I think that's enough for depressing topic. Let's move on to another one. So what's been on your mind this week?
Well, big gear shift here actually, but
we need it.
Basically, the biggest thing that's going on for me right now is I'm attempting the Sober October, and if nobody knows what that is, that would be where you go the entire month of October without drinking, and so that'll be interesting for me because I typically drink at a rate of every 2 to 3 days. We're on day 5 right now, so yay!
Awesome. That's awesome, man. Are you doing the cancer support that goes along with that?
I was unaware of the cancer support that goes along with that.
Yeah, it's based in the UK. It's the website here is actually gosober.org.uk, and I don't know if it applies to America, but apparently you can sign up for Go Sober in what they call as a sober hero. I don't know about that title, but if you go 31 days without alcohol, that raises money for cancer research.
I will look into that, actually, because, I mean, that would, hopefully you didn't have to sign up before October began, because I didn't know about it at that point. How I found out about it, actually, or how I got it was probably the way a few other people got it. I don't know if anybody else is doing this shit, actually. But, I found out about it through the Joe Rogan podcast where they challenged their friend, Bert Kreischer to not drink for October.
Oh, that was such a ridiculous episode. The stuff that they were planning to do for Sober October.
Oh yeah, and that's one thing. I'm only doing the not drinking part. I don't have time or money to take 15 hot yoga classes or any of that other ridiculous shit they were talking about.
You're not going to run 100 miles or whatever they said?
No, I'm not going to run a marathon. I don't have time to run a marathon. I don't even know of a marathon near me. It's freaking October. I'm in the mountains. It's cold. I don't want to run outside right now.
Can you even run a mile?
Me? Yeah.
Nonstop?
Yeah.
No breaks?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I can't sprint it, but like get about a good 75-80% output. Yeah.
Huh. A marathon's totally different. I was just busting your balls.
Well, at a marathon, you typically peel back to even lower of a max effort, but typically. But yeah, I just, for me, it was just, I was looking at it, I was going, maybe I should. Because like I said, for me, first of all, this is the very first podcast, if anybody has listened to any of the other ones, this is the first one I've been sober for. At all. Any degree of sobriety at all, because, let's see, there's been varying degrees of 2 to 3 glasses of whiskey, or, well, one, like a couple episodes ago, I killed an entire bottle of wine when we were making that one.
Which one?
And I'm not sure which one it was, dude. I just said I killed an entire bottle of wine while we were recording it. But
Well, I think that's an important detail too. When you're saying that you would drink once every couple days, or I think you told me 5 days a week, basically.
yeah, basically like every couple of days, and then sometimes I'd string a few in a row, like, you know.
Okay, but how much are you drinking on the days that you do drink? Because I think it's different. Like I could say I drink 5 days a week, but I'm only drinking like 2 or 3 beers of those days.
Well, for me, I don't have much of an off switch, so it's
That's super dangerous.
I'm one of those people that once I get rolling, you know, other than last week was one of the only times in a long time that like I drank like a couple beers while we were recording. Well, no, 2 weeks ago, I drank like a couple beers while we were recording. I stopped. I went and did some other stuff, and then, you know, I watched some football later and drank a couple beers while I was doing that, but I didn't just, like, keep going throughout the day.
But on average,
On average, we're talking, like, come home after work, have at least 4 or 5 beers,
mm-hmm.
or an entire bottle of wine right after work, and then maybe follow that with a beer or two, or, you know, half a fifth of whiskey.
Wow. So the degrees are actually really not constant, or it's not even. It's either a few beers or liquor, right?
Right. It's either like a few beers or like, and for me, I don't know, some people probably consider a bottle of wine like a whole lot of alcohol.
It is to me.
If I drink a bottle of wine over the course of like 2-3 hours, I don't really feel like really all that drunk. Honestly, the 3 or 4 beers probably hits me harder than the bottle of wine would.
It's always so weird because beer, I'd probably like get tipsy. Now, disclaimer: I'm nowhere near John's alcohol tolerance. I am a super lightweight. But around beer 2 or 3, I start feeling it, and that's when I usually try to stop. Is when I start to feel it, because I think I'm sure you know this, but I think a lot of people at least don't think about when you feel drunk. You're actually feeling, depending on how fast you're drinking, you're feeling the drinks you've already consumed. So if I stopped when I started to feel tipsy, then my body's still processing the alcohol that I had just drank, and I'll continue to get more drunk, even though I stopped drinking. But anyway, I think that's just an important thing to think about. So,
yeah, well, my brain does something different whenever I feel the tipsy point, or especially like the solid buzz point. My brain goes, "This is awesome." You know what would make it more awesome? More. And
now I'm not about to argue, question, or really debate alcoholism and the mindset that goes behind that, because it is an actual disease. But what is the, if you can explain it in your perspective, what is the mentality of that? Because my mentality of I feel tipsy, I should drink more. Every time I think I'm drunk, I'm just like, oh fuck, because I'm either going to get sick or I'm going to feel like shit the next day. You know, I just feel like I've broke that point where I could function the next day or function for the rest of the night. Getting drunk is just, to me, not fun. Getting tipsy is fun.
Well, my body has basically adapted to a point to being so familiar with being drunk that recently, actually for like the past year or so, it's been forever, no matter how much I drank, since I've thrown up or gotten sick or even felt like I was going to get sick, because my body's just used to it now. And I've gotten like blackout drunk, like passing out on the couch, waking up, like, you know, my head's like under my arm and I'm slept in some ungodly position that wasn't really sleep. It was just my brain shutting off because there's too much alcohol. And woke up, you know, feeling still drunk like 5-6 hours later.
Mm-hmm.
Stumbled over to the fridge, chugged an entire glass of water, and went to bed.
And you don't feel like shit the next day?
You can actually slowly start to get used to feeling like shit, and you start to think that's normal.
Well, that's depressing.
I thought I was just getting old. And, like, I was just getting worn down from, like, the physical demands and mental demands of life.
You are 29 years old. Stop with that old bullshit. People in their 30s and 40s are going, ugh. I can practically hear their eyes rolling right now.
Yeah, but I mean, then again, I've also done, pretty hard physical labor for the last 11 years. So, like, my knees are, like, more tore up than some people that I know that are, pretty deep into their 30s.
I get that.
So, but still, that's neither here nor there. But the big thing is, like, for me, I enjoy the feeling of being drunk. I enjoy things that I'm doing typically more when I'm intoxicated, because it's like it shuts off like this kind of mental analysis in my head thing that's kind of always going for me. I'm always kind of in my own head, and it shuts that out. And now all of a sudden I'm just in the moment. I'm just doing the thing that I'm doing. I'm practicing a fighting game, and I've got some music blasting in my ears, and I got a solid buzz going. Never mind that this practice is totally worthless, because either A, it doesn't apply to my sober state of mind, because actually when you practice things in a certain state of mind, it makes them harder to do it in a different state of mind.
Yeah, anyway.
But never mind that practice is worthless. I enjoy doing it more. Even if I'm just, playing something that I already like, I like it more whenever I'm intoxicated. It's easier for me to socialize with people because I'm not all in my own head. I don't say something and then I'm analyzing what they think about what I just said. Instead, I said it, I don't give a fuck, and we're moving. That's, so there's multiple things that I feel are, we'll put this in quotations here, improvements, whenever I'm drunk.
Strange perspective.
And, well, I'm giving you the truth here. So, while I think that, I was slowly starting to realize that, if I'm frequently doing things and part of the reason that I'm getting full enjoyment out of them is that I'm drunk, are these the things I should be doing? Should I continue to, like, slow my body and mind down to a point where it can just enjoy whatever the fuck is going on? Or should I get the hell away from that and try to find, ways to enjoy, the things that I would enjoy no matter what state of mind I'm in?
Right.
Because it's frankly, I can say that, like, I'm not an alcoholic, and I honestly, at least physically dependent, I don't feel like I am, because we're 5 days in, 0 withdrawal symptoms. 0, like... And that's probably because I didn't drink, daily. Occasionally I'd drink 3 or 4 days in a row, but then I'd take like 1 or 2 off. And that's such a funny thing looking back. I'd take like 1 day off and be like, all right, I'm good. And then the next day drink like half of the whiskey.
But like the mindset of, I think there's an interesting thing that happens, especially when it comes to addiction of any kind, is that when you're not under the influence of that substance, well, granted, especially if you're not craving that substance, it's easy to logically think about it and say to yourself, I don't really need this. But when that craving hits, logic goes out the window, and your mind kind of tricks yourself into thinking, no, I need this.
Yeah, I've only had, in the past 5 days, I've only had 1 craving for alcohol, and it was more, at least in my rational mind, there could have been something going on there further under the surface. But I was looking. I just happened to see a fucking commercial for Samuel Adams Oktoberfest, and that's in my top 3 beers, and I was just like, fuck, I'm missing that. I was like, man, I love that beer. And then I thought to myself, well, somewhere towards the end of the month, buy a 6-pack, put it in the fridge, and then have a couple of them at the end of it.
Now,
set a date.
At the end of the 31 days, obviously you're going to have a celebratory drink, right?
I'm actually not sure right now.
Okay.
There's a consideration in my mind of basically just never going back because of how good I feel after 5 days.
That's awesome.
Like after 5 days, I mean, after like a really long break from it, if I think I can actually, be more conscious about it, and I think the biggest thing about it is I really need to improve my life because, for a lot of the times that I've been miserable, there is a certain amount of emotional dependence and escapism going on there. We're like, okay, this day was absolute shit. I'm going to get hammered and play Destiny.
I think that's a large reason for a lot of people, I'm sure.
Or, this day was shit. I'm going to get hammered and go to bed. And then remind me to talk about sleep in a second. But I felt enough better. I've had my energy level go up so much. Literally just 2 days ago, I was at work and a couple other people asked me what was up with me. Like they thought I was high. And they were just like, what's up with you? And I was just like, haven't drank in 3 days. And of course, people being the way they are, they're like, maybe you should restart. And like, and they're like, because oh god, I'm happy and energetic. Get that the fuck away from me. But
we want negativity. Fuck your positivity.
And I've had a few people tell me it's supposed to be Oktoberfest, not Sober October. I've heard that a couple times.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
And my response to that, it's been Oktoberfest since 2007 for me, so I think I'm good.
Yeah, it's just a stupid month.
And I've told people, I'm like, if I see a beer that looks like super duper tasty and I've just got to try it, I'll buy one, and I'll stick it in my fridge, and I'll try it next month. It's not that hard.
So
that's the thing that surprised me. Like, I thought it would be hard because when I first thought about doing it, I didn't want to do it. And I thought it'd be hard. Maybe there is something coming later this month that's going to make it more challenging. But
you can't think about that.
But so far, it's not been hard at all. Like, it's been actually really easy. Like, normally I'm sitting here, and by this point in the podcast, I'm feeling pretty solidly intoxicated because usually I have a drink or two before we start it, and then I drink one or two during it. And instead, I've been sitting here, drinking a bottle of kombucha.
Gross.
Dude, it's awesome. Like, not like flavor wise, but man, I don't know if you get really bad heartburn. I don't know if you get really bad heartburn and shit, but I did. And, part of it is alcohol absolutely destroys the gut biome. But I've been trying to rebuild that I've been taking that on it, ToA Gut Health probiotics and prebiotics, and trying to build it up that way. And I've also been drinking 2 bottles of that Dave's GT Dave's kombucha a day, and I haven't had, it doesn't matter what I eat, red sauce, spicy food, it has not mattered. I've had absolutely no heartburn.
That's interesting. So, going back to how you are when you are drunk, you said that you don't even throw up anymore?
No, my body has reached a point where it's just like, I put away, and I know there are people who can drink heavier than this and would probably listen to this and be like, oh, you little puss. But there was one night I put away probably almost an entire fifth of vodka in about 6 hours.
Wow. Well,
that's a lot for a guy my size. And I didn't even feel sick. I didn't even get sick. I took a break for a little while, actually got picked up by a friend, went over to their place, ended up drinking more like an hour and a half later after that. Didn't get sick. Woke up the next day, went to work, felt like shit, but then, just powered through it, went home, drank beer. It's just...
Well, that would have been super useful when you were drinking at my house back in the day.
Yeah, I know. That would have been great, but apparently my body then was trying to stop me. I guess it was given up for a little bit recently.
Because this guy, there was one night, it was just me and you in the living room. Tell me if you remember this. I think everyone had already gone to bed. I was playing some video game.
Probably Rainbow Six Vegas at that time.
No. Oh, it was Dead Island, the zombie game. And I don't think I drank at all that night. And you had. And you were you were doing that thing that a lot of people do where you were sitting on the couch with your head back, with your eyes barely open. You had slack jaw. Your mouth was just hanging open, you know, totally plastered. And I look over at you, and I said, "Are you going to be okay?" You're just like, yeah, I'm good. It's like, "Are you going to throw up?" And you're like, No, I'll know when I throw up. I'll go to the bathroom. I was like, "Okay, please do." Not even 2 minutes. Probably not even a minute after he said that. Blah! Just explosive vomit all over the coffee table, the entertainment center, and of course the floor. It was so sudden that all I could do was just look at him just like, what just happened?
Oh man, and the funny thing is, maybe that's the real reason I don't throw up anymore. I don't do that anymore. I don't like tilt my head back like that whenever I'm drunk. I've noticed I never do that anymore. And that usually when I did that, I'd start to feel like really dizzy.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why it doesn't happen anymore, is that I don't fucking do that.
Maybe. But to your credit, drunk and just vomited, he cleaned it up.
I was usually pretty good about that, usually.
There was only, I think, one time that you got sick and you didn't clean it up, but...
I think I was incapable, if I remember right.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, but I'm pretty sure. Usually, you always cleaned up. And it's so funny telling you or telling anybody, it's just like, is he going to get sick? It's like, it's okay, he'll clean it up. Like, it happened that many times. It's like, it's okay. He's got it.
That's horrifying, man. Like, it's crazy to think that's how I used to live. And it's crazy to think that, like, even recently, living with it basically as if not a chemical dependence, definitely an emotional dependence. Like, this is what we do when we're stressed. This is what we do when we're sad.
I'm sure yeah, I really think that that's a huge part of it. I mean, I've told you before, but my dad quit drinking over a decade ago, and he has no desire to drink, anything like that. But if there's like some sort of a social gathering, like a cookout, or like we just had my graduation party a few months ago, he said that that's the only time that he wants like a beer, but not even like a beer for the alcohol. It's just, I guess it's just that social click in his brain that associated social gatherings with alcohol.
That's why some people buy like O'Doul's and stuff like that, those non-alcoholic beers, is so that they can walk around, a gathering or something like that and not feel out of place.
Yeah, I don't know.
Which I haven't done that yet, by the way. That's not. I haven't been in a social setting yet. That's the one that I think might be a little cringy for me without alcohol. But we'll just see how that goes.
I don't think he's actually tried that. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think it's because it's still a beer to him, and I think he doesn't trust himself, like the addiction part of himself, that he will continue drinking like O'Doul's. Because
there could be like a mental slippery slope there. Like,
yeah,
you could be opening a door that real beer walks through.
Because me and my dad knew this guy. I won't say who he is, but he was a really bad alcoholic, and he tried to quit, and he actually switched to O'Doul's for a little while, but he eventually went back to the normal beer. But unfortunately, the addiction got the better of him, and he ended up losing his life because of that. But yeah, so I don't think O'Doul's, at least in my dad's opinion and probably his particular case, he just doesn't want to do it. So
yeah, like it's and today will be interesting because I've got a lot of time at home to myself, and Thursday and Saturday were usually my two heaviest drinking days. Mm-hmm. So This will be interesting. I've got a lot of time today with me.
Quit burping in the damn mic.
It's more of a hiccup, actually. Good old kombucha hiccups. It's very, like, frothy. That's the way to put it. It's, like, very effervescent. That's a good way to put it.
I've had it. It's gross as shit.
Yeah, well, you just didn't have a good one.
No, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be gross.
I don't know. I kind of like it now. It's a bit of an acquired taste now, but...
Okay. Plus, it's too expensive.
It is expensive,
unless you make it yourself.
Yeah, I could just imagine me trying to make that shit myself.
Why? You just
put
the shit in a bowl and leave it. That's basically it.
Yeah. But yeah, today should be interesting. I wonder how much I'll get done, because this is the first day off to myself I've had since starting, Sober October.
Right.
And...
Are you having doubts?
No, not at all.
That you can do it?
No, not at all.
Okay, good.
And,
I didn't know what you meant by interesting.
No, it's just like I don't know what I'm going to do with myself today. Probably play Overwatch. But
oh my god, you're so productive. You're getting shit done.
I mean, I'll definitely study too.
Yeah.
Patriots play tonight. I'll watch that.
Woo!
Yeah, woo. How'd you like that game this weekend?
I didn't see it.
Oh, it's always sweet to beat them.
Whatever.
But yeah, it's I don't know. Should be a fun day actually, and productive too. Because that's the other thing I've noticed. Like, there's some mental. This took longer than the physical. There's like some mental fog still clearing out, and all those supplements and stuff I take, they're a lot more effective whenever I'm not basically in recovery.
Well, of course, because your body's not trying to fight something off. Because, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people know this, and I know you know this, but alcohol is poisonous. It's toxic. The only reason why you survive is because of your liver. And if that thing's working overtime just to try to keep you from dying, yeah, I don't think it can absorb the other lower priority substances that are in your body. Like,
yeah, that's one of the things. That's one of the things I was starting to feel like I was doing was like chasing, nights of destructive behavior with, really expensive, and like, I mean, you know how expensive all that stuff is.
Yeah.
With really expensive and very potent supplements that were basically getting me back to regular, the way that I think I'd feel if I wasn't drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And that seemed crazy to me. Like, I spent a shit ton of money on alcohol and a shit ton of money on supplements, and I'm basically using the two to cancel each other out. What the fuck? Just like, money pissed down the drain. That was a big contributing factor, was like, let's see how much money I have this month if I don't drink. Right. Let's see how much shit I get done this month if I don't drink. Let's see how good I feel if I don't drink. How sharp my mind is. And honestly, I mean, literally actually, I'll go and be honest about this. Literally last week we sat here and thought about doing one, and I didn't even feel like doing it. Well, the night right before that, what I didn't tell you, because I didn't feel like talking about it, was I had bought one of those like double-sized bottles of wine.
The jugs?
Yeah, not the jug, but like normal bottle of wine is like $7.50. The double size is like 1,500 milliliters, a liter and a half. Mm-hmm. Well, I bought one of those. I killed that motherfucker in like 3 hours. Jeez. And then proceeded to go to the fridge and get like 2 beers at a time for a couple rounds of that, and sat up till like 6 o'clock in the morning drinking. And I was just like, why the fuck am I doing this? So whenever we were sitting here having that conversation, I didn't feel like doing the podcast. I was coming down from that. Still coming down from it.
You didn't want to tell me? Why?
Because I was just like so pissed off at myself that I was just like, Jesus, I don't even want to talk about this right now. And then literally after we got off of here, you know what I did? I went to bed and I slept for about 5 hours. Got up, watched football, could barely stay awake for it, and then drank a couple beers and went to bed.
Man.
And then that's where, like, I was that day. When I woke up the next day is when I started thinking about doing Sober October. I was like, it's official, whether you're like chemically dependent or not. Because I'd always said like I'd stop if I ever thought I was chemically dependent.
I think by then, to a certain degree, it's too late, though. Well, not too late, but it's significantly harder.
Yeah, you need treatment at that point.
Yeah.
And I always told myself I would stop if I was chemically dependent. But I was like, at this point, you've got what basically amounts to compulsive behavior. And that's the stair step to chemical dependence.
Yeah.
And while I could still be like, okay, I'm not going to drink today, and it wasn't a problem to not drink for a day or 2 days, I was like, I thought about doing a month, and like I was just like, I like cringed at the thought of doing a month. And then I didn't think about it again for another couple of days, and then Saturday night did some drinking with with friends and my girlfriend, and I was just like, okay, this isn't too bad. But I woke up the next day just feeling like shit. Mm-hmm. And I even just had the thought of like, I'm kind of living the same week over and over and over again. And one of the reasons I'm doing that is because I'm constantly almost in some sort of state of recovery.
Right.
So I was like, we are on the stair step to chemical dependence here, because I'm going to get to a point where the only time I feel like doing anything is if I'm drunk, because the rest of the time I'm in recovery, and that's going to create like this false ladder in my head that when I'm not drunk, I feel like shit. Well, the reason you feel like shit is because you're recovering from the drinking. But I think people slip into that mindset and they start going, well, I feel good when I'm drinking, so I guess I'll toss back 2 beers and go to work.
Well, it's actually kind of interesting you're saying this, because my dad actually, he put it to me this way. In retrospect, he knew he had a problem when he drank when he was alone, when he realized he couldn't stop once he started, and once you're drinking to avoid feeling like shit. Like when you're feeling like the only time I feel functional is when I'm drinking, not necessarily drunk, but just drinking. Yeah, that's a chemical dependency, at least to a certain degree, or you might be approaching a chemical dependency.
Possibly. And I was just like, the last time I took a month off from drinking was in 2014. Yeah, 2014. That's the last time I took a full month off. And, but that wasn't actually a very good month for me. So like I didn't quit drinking for myself that month. I won't go into the details of that month, on something we're recording, but I didn't quit drinking for myself that month. I thought I did, but I really just was pissed off and feeling shitty and didn't even feel like doing that.
Okay.
And, but this time I was just like, I gotta find out if I'm, really good with what's going on in my life, if I'm really like, is this really the best I can do? Do I really want to, because at one point I was thinking to myself, I feel like I'm playing the game of life with one hand tied behind my back.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because if I've got something that like slows me down, and I've got something that, reduces my mental and physical effectiveness on a daily basis, then I'm playing the game of life with one hand tied behind my back. And why would I want to play the game of life with one hand tied behind my back? Just to feel better. There are a lot of things I can do to feel better. There's an honest supplement called New Mood. If I'm down, even if it's not during like the sleep cycle, if I'm down, I can take 2 of those and it will pick my mood up.
But
it won't make me drunk and intoxicated, but it will help pick my mood up.
I think that we should also clarify that we are not sponsored by On It. It's come up a few times already.
Oh yeah, no. Believe me, if we were sponsored, there'd be a advertisement there. My sobriety this month might as well be sponsored by it, but I spent the money myself. They didn't sponsor it.
That's right.
So
at John's expense, On It sponsored Sober October for him.
Yeah, because that's basically been part of helping me feel better on a daily basis because getting away from depression is one of the reasons I drink. Well, they make stuff to help get away from depression. Without even being sponsored by them, I would say that anybody who's interested in the supplement side of the world, that's the company to take a look at.
By the way, on it, if you would like to sponsor us, give us a call.
On it, who will never hear this early of an episode of this podcast.
Never.
Yeah, I think that's all I can really say about Sober October. I mean, I could talk more about the problems of drinking, but I think everybody's pretty familiar with like what drinking can really do to your life. I mean, and I'm lucky that I'm not like a violent drunk or a mean drunk or that kind of person who gets drunk and on a routine basis starts like screaming at people and
right.
I mean, I've had a bad night or two, and I think anybody who's drank for a long period of time probably has had a bad night or two. But on a routine basis, I'm usually pretty friendly and happy and bubbly, and then I pass the fuck out.
Well, I have a story. With your permission, I'll tell it.
I don't want to tell that story on the podcast ever.
Okay.
The people who were there know about it, and because that story was fueled by like a lot of other shit that was going on too.
Well, we don't have to bring up that part of it, but this was years and years ago. So now, to me at least, it's hilarious.
Yeah, but to tell that story, I'd want to tell like why, like in my defense. And there was
I think we're confusing two different stories.
Are you thinking about?
I'll take this out. What are you thinking of? No, I wasn't thinking. But that's not funny to me. I was talking about the one where you.
Oh, God, no, don't do that. That's like my first drinking story. We'll tell that one on another episode.
Okay. Well.
Yeah, we'll tell that one on another. Yeah, because the one that I thought you were thinking of was like, dude, that's not funny at all. Like, that was horrible.
Okay.
And that one was funny, but we'll talk about that night another time, maybe.
Right. No problem. Well, we're already a little past an hour, so you want to go ahead and wrap this up?
Yeah, I mean, because I don't really have anything else in the pipeline to talk about today.
All right. Well, sorry again. Just like John mentioned a little bit earlier, we're sorry that we didn't upload a episode last week. Just some things came up and it wasn't possible. But we're going to try to be consistent, and we're going to try to get an episode out every week. But until next week, what is next week? What's the date?
Next week would be the 12th. Oh, day before Friday the 13th.
Oh God! You want to do?
We should talk about fucking horror movies.
Yeah, we can. I was going to say we could do our Halloween episode that we're wanting to do, but that's a little too early. We could do that. We could do a horror movie episode.
Yeah, we could do a little bit of that because that'd be pretty fun because it would actually end up going up probably by the time you're done editing. It'd end up going up on the 13th. So
yeah, I'll come out on that Friday. So yeah, so anyone who's listening, just comment in the section down below of the YouTube. What is your favorite horror movie and why? But thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next week. Until then, my name is Sean.
And I'm John.
Later, guys.